Next line is the declaration of variables, parameters, etc. Just now we talked about variables. In Fortran, there can be various types of variables depending on the types of constants we want to use. Now, what is a variable? Variable is actually we can imagine as a box situated at a certain memory location of a computer. Now, this box cannot have any kind of objects. Each box can have only one type of objects depending upon what we declare about the box. Now, a box can store integer constants if we declare that the box or the variables is of integer type. So, if the variables is of integer type, then that variable can store only integer constants. If a variable is of real type, then that variable is a box which only contain real constants. If a box is of string type or if a variable is of string type, then that box can only store string variables. That is the use of variables. So, a variable declaration means we are specifying a box with a or a memory location where that kind of constant can be stored. Variables can be various types. Actually, there can be in Fortran, there can be two types of variables. One is numeric type of variables, another is non-numeric type of variables. Again, numeric type of variables can be divided into various types like integer variables, real variables, floating point variables. Non-numeric may be string variables, there can be logical variables. In this way, variables can be subdivided into various types. Sometimes the constants we use in Fortran, we want to give some name to the constants. Like we use in mathematics pi is actually 3.14 like this. So, that constant we have giving some name, so that with that name we can use that constant very easily in the program. These kinds of constants we will be called as parameters. So, need to define what kind of parameters is that. Is it a integer parameter, is it a real parameter, or it is a character parameter? Like this we have to specify or declare. So, in this line we declare those variables and parameters on their types. Like we have declared here Q and R, these are the two variables, and we say that these two variables can store integer constants. So, these are integer type of variables. Next, we come to the next two lines. So, next line is a write statement. It is about asking the computer to write something. Actually, initially we give this write statement so that the user can have some clue what they want to give as input. That is the use of these initial write statements. So, most of the time write and read statements are accompanied by a format statement. Means if the computer want to write something, then in what format it will write, it should write. Or if the computer want to read from the input of the users, then in what format the computer will understand the input is coming to the computer. So these format statements are necessary to understand to separate various data from each other. That is the use of a format statement. Like here we have written write, fifth line is write in bracket star comma 1. Here the star is actually sometimes the memory location from where file names to which the computer should write the things. So here star means we have not specified anything, just we are actually the computer will write at the monitor display. So that's why there is nothing is written, no file is specified. And next is star comma 1. This 1 is actually, this integer actually indicates the line number of the Fortran program where the corresponding format statement is given. Now we see in 1 is the format statement. We can see the next line, just next line, the format statement is given as in bracket 1x, x means a space. So the writing will be start by a space, then it will write I is divided by j. So since it is inverted comma, so it will take it as a string type of statements. So whatever inside the bracket is there, it will write. It will not try to interpret anything inside bracket. So whatever there inside the inverted comma, it will write that. Next is the comma. All are, you see, all are separated by comma formats. So next is this double slash. Single slash means it is telling the computer to go to the next line, so, and double slash means, so there will be one line gap, so it will be writing will be started from the second line. So I is divided by j, then go to next line, again go to next line, then give first column 1x means first column will be a space, then it will write type I comma j. So now the user of the program now understand what he or she has to do. He or she has to just type the I and j. So it will, user will go on typing the I and j. Now when user writes I and j, then the computer has to know. Now when user type I and j, then the computer has to take those things as its input. So that's why the program will now ask the computer to read the input. So that's why the next statement is the read statement. Read in bracket star comma 2 I and j, I comma j. So this statement directs the computer to take those inputs on boxes I and j, that is integer variables I and j. And how, in which format it will take? When user type I and j, there should be a formatting. So the formatting is given in the next line. Now you see in the read statement there is star comma 2. So the star is actually indicates the file numbering, something like that. Since it is star, it means there is no file, the keyboard is giving the input. The input is taken from the keyboard. And 2 means, so here we see the 2 indicates the line number of the program where the format statement for this read statement is given. we see here the format statement is to format in bracket 2i5. So what does this means? 2i5 means it has two integer inputs. So 2 means there is total 2 number of integers, I means integer, and 5 is the length of the integer. That means what is the length? So number of digits should be 4 and 1 is assigned for the sign of the integer. So the length of the integer should be maximum 4-digit integer. So that is how the inputs are read by the computer. Next we come to the two arithmetic statements. The first one is actually q equal to I/j. We already have defined q as an integer. So the division of I and j, if it is not becoming an integer, but it has to be stored as the integer. So the nearest and less than the real number what we get by dividing I by j will be taken as the integer of this division. So q will be equal to that integer, the integer nearest to the real number corresponding to I by j and less than that real number. So that's how we get the quotient. Q will be the quotient, and the next statement is r equal to I minus q into j. We know from simple mathematics that this expression is for finding the remainder. So we will get, in this way we get the quotient and remainder. Now you see here q equal to I by j. An important thing here, we see the I by j may not be an integer. It may be any real number. Like let's say I is 27 and j is 4. Then the result will be 27 by 4, it means 6.75. So the result will be 6.75. But since q is integer but our result is a real number, so that 6.75 cannot be stored in the box q. So what will be stored in q? The nearest integer and less than 6.75 will be stored as the corresponding integer. So 6 will be the resultant integer that will be stored in q. Because why? Because q cannot take a real number and a rational number. It can only take an integer. That's why it will take 6. That is how it happens in programming.